for another 5-minute murder. I'm going to pick a card here. Let's see what we come up with this week. Oh, look at that. I dropped a whole bunch of cards. But today we got old Dorothea Puente. So Dorothea Puente was born January 9th, 1929 and died on March 27th, 2011. She was an American convicted serial killer in the 1980s. Puente ran a boarding house in Sacramento, California, and murdered various elderly and mentally disabled boarders before cashing their Social Security checks. Her total count reached 9 confirmed murders and 6 unconfirmed. The newspapers dubbed Puente the Death House Landlady. So, looks like that Dorothea killed possibly up to 15 people, maybe more. And, this picture here, Dorothea looks like, she's like 80 years old, right? And so this picture was taken in the 80s. This is, she looks really old, but she's only in her 60s in this picture, right? She was born in 1929. Even in the mid 80s, she would have only been like 59, 58 years old, right? So we all think that she's like this old lady, right? But she really wasn't, which is why she was able to, bury these bodies in her yard, right? She wasn't nearly as old and as frail as she led on to be. But like a lot of different serial killers, she used what she had and she used her attributes to really disarm people and get them into a place where she could, take advantage of them. And for Dorothea, it was all about getting their Social Security checks and having them sign over money to her, and then she would get rid of them and she would continue to collect those checks. So that was how she kind of funded what she was doing. And, she would invite these people to come and live with her and stay at the house. And then she would start, giving them more and more medication, eventually having them OD on that medication. And, in effect, she was poisoning them with their own drugs or with other drugs that she had. And it's a fascinating story because I met her nephew one time at a convention, which was really cool. He came up and actually he was walking past, and back then I had my banner had all of the expansions on it, and it had Killers the Card Game right in the middle. And Dorothea Puente was like the poster person for the Lady Killers expansion. And so he went walking by and he stopped and he said, "Hey, that's my aunt." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." And of course, this was right after the show Worst Roommates Ever came out, right? And she was featured, I think, in the first episode of Worst Roommates Ever. First or second one was on Dorothea Puente. So if you get a chance, go check that out. It's a really good episode. But he stopped and he said, "Yeah, that's my aunt." And so I asked him, I said, "Well, did you guys ever go over there? Like, did you spend time with her? Like, any Christmases and, Easters over your aunt's house?" And he said, "No, our family wasn't that close. And everybody always thought she was a little weird. So we didn't really go over there and really spend any time with that side of the family." And I thought, damn, of course, yeah, she was a little weird. She was, swindling people out of their Social Security checks and poisoning people and killing them and burying them in her yard. So I guess she was pretty weird. So it was crazy that I got to meet him. And I also own a copy of Dorothea's cookbook, right? So when she was in prison, she made a cookbook with somebody, and apparently, from what I understand, I've not made any of the recipes in there, but some of the recipes are pretty good. So recipes from death row, Dorothea Puente style, minus the medication to poison and kill you. So yeah, it's a crazy story. Check out that Worst Roommates Ever on Netflix. Really, really great series that will give you so much information about Dorothea Puente and what she did and how she did it. Just unbelievable that how this lady would bring in these, homeless people and elderly people and bring them in and, systematically poison and kill them so that she could collect all their money. And she is just crazy, crazy story of somebody who would disarm people with her seemingly frail and elderly nature, even though she was only in her 50s and 60s, and incredibly smart, right? So, yeah, there you go, Dorothea Puente, tonight on 5 Minute Murder. Check it out. Go check out the video, and I will catch y'all next week.
Have you ever wanted to be a detective to investigate the crime scene and catch the criminal? Well, welcome to Death, New Mexico, a town just off the famous Route 666. A pretty quiet town until recently. There have been a string of murders. In the social deduction game, The Profiler, you have 60 minutes to investigate the crime scene, interrogate your witnesses, and determine who the killer is and what kind of killer they are to win. What will happen when you become the profiler?
This looks like a job for me, so everybody just follow me.